Welcome everyone to our new series, Connecting Conversations. I am Leah and I'm joined by my lovely co-hosts. I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves.
Yeah, my name is Kendrick.
Rachel.
My name is Dante.
And today we're going to be talking about something very interesting and something that we all know about. It is the 5 love languages. So let's just dive right into it. The first one, as we know, is words of affirmation. Tell me what that means to you and provide some examples.
Words of affirmation for me are just things that let you know and let the other person know that you really do care for them. Not just, oh, hi, I miss you and stuff, but I love you. You mean things to me. Like, you're beautiful.
And I think what's most important too is that when you provide these things or you say these things, that it has to be genuine. It can't be like, oh yeah, you look nice today. Like, it has to be genuine because they're not going to actually receive the love and it's just going to be empty.
You need to have emotions behind it. A lot of times we just run through the motions, just say whatever, and words lose their meaning over time. You can't let that happen.
There's definitely a lot more connection when you feel it, when you say it. So I feel like that's a really important point.
It's definitely important. So the next one is quality time. And it's basically just like when you go out to dinner, your dates, your times at home, watching movies, your Netflix and chill, all that good stuff. It's the quality time you spend with the people that you love.
Well, I know for me, quality time is my number one love language. Okay? And it can be as simple as just like standing beside me with my husband's phone down, undivided attention. That is all I need. I don't need an extravagant date or anything. Just quality time and his attention is one-on-one only. So.
Yeah, I know one thing that's worked for us is having, as usual, a date night, but having like Thursday night where we're not playing games unless we want to, like we're not on our phones, but we're spending that time together talking, doing something as a couple. That helps out a whole lot.
I think the most important point of the quality time is the quality portion. You can spend time with someone, you can be there, you can be present, but if you don't actually add depth to the moments you're together, like eye contact is a really big thing. When you're looking at me and you talk to me, it feels different when you do this. So yeah, it's definitely the depth of that time that makes it more important.
And it's funny you say that because, I mean, of course, we're saying quality time. I think people go straight to the time and don't think of the quality. Yeah, and when you said that, it's like, oh my gosh, that's true. It's the quality.
You can be around someone. You can invest time being around someone, but you have to invest in the time. And I think that makes it a lot better.
That's good. So the next one, I think, is acts of service. Acts of service. So tell me kind of what that means to you all.
So for me personally, acts of service is like, I tell my boyfriend this all the time. I'd be like, listen, if you just send me $20 for gas, I'm good with you. Like, you could just like slide me some gas money. That makes me feel good because that ain't gotta come out of my pocket. Like, that can stay over there and I can save that money for something I want to do. Or like, yo, I know you've been going through some stuff, so I made you dinner tonight. Or hey, you know, like, I washed the clothes today and I folded them too.
Man, I wish that was an act of service because I'm getting paid so much for that.
No, but I think that's one of mine too. I'm a nurse and I work 12-hour days and I just had a baby. So like, I'm taking care of people all day. When I come home, I'm still on. So just the mere fact that my husband made me wash the dishes or fold the clothes, like that is like gold to me. So I know it seems simple, especially if some people that's not your love language, those things are gold. So, yeah.
I used to look at acts of service as things that were built in, but then I found that sometimes people don't do that. Like there's certain things like folding clothes. I hate folding clothes. But if somebody folds my clothes, that's up here. Like that's it. Acts of service is not even my leading, love language. But something as small as cooking for me is another big deal. If you cook me a meal, up here, way up here. So acts of service I find to be important, but I didn't know how important it was until I realized like people pick up on that for sure.
And I think it's not only just the act too. I think it's the manner in which they do it.
Right.
So I can tell my husband, hey, I want this done. But when I get home, if he complains to me that he did it, I don't think that I received it. So I think it's a manner to how you do it as well.
Right.
Maybe
The tone definition of a lot of things matter.
It changes everything.
Yeah. So maybe go to the next one. I think it's gifts.
Gifts, giving.
I mean, I'm sure I kind of touched on that one already.
I did touch. I kind of combined it.
The $20, that's more of a gift.
I think that's an act of service because I be broke. I need money. Like, that's an act of service. When I'm on the phone and I'm complaining like, man, like, I really got to put forth this money for gas, and then I got to go to the store and buy groceries, and then I need to buy Tide Pods, and someone's like, listen, I heard you. Here's $20. That's acts of service, but it's also a gift. So, like, I like gifts. I give them a lot. I like to, like, plan out special days or, like, hey, we're here, we're chilling, let me give you a massage. Or like, hey, I know you like this cologne, I bought it for you. Or hey, you need some underwear, I bought you some underwear. Like,
Hey, look.
At one point in time, I thought all females love gifts giving as their, like that was their leading thing. And it's always about how much money you spend, but it has nothing to do with the amount of money. Something as small as roses or a handwritten note goes a very long way for people. And I always thought it was money. Like, here's a bag, here's perfume, here's whatever, but it's not always about the amount of money invested, but how you invested that.
I'm not going to say nothing about the flowers because flowers die in my house. So I tell people, don't give me flowers. Give me a pair of shoes.
Look, we did flowers one time in the vase, and that thing died after a couple weeks. And
That's
her
why I give
allergies were crazy.
I know women who love it though. There's some women
Yeah, it's
who
true.
really
There's some
love
women who love that
flowers.
single red rose.
Or
He
those
loves
bed
it.
and bath body works thing. I'm
Oh.
not that type of person. Do not. My husband brought me that when we were dating, and I looked at him like, yeah. And so through time, I was like, that's not it. So now that I'm married, this sounds probably simple and probably like, silly, but I love bundt cakes. Nothing but cakes.
Oh, yes.
So,
Oh, my God. Yes.
I'm serious.
Yes.
$5 cake. So when he
Listen.
comes home, it's as if
Listen.
he took me to Disney World. I'm like, yes, that's it. That's all I need.
Coming home after work, 12 hours,
That's a fact, yeah.
nothing but cake.
Or hey, I ran a hot bath for you.
Yes.
For a candle.
It works.
Because I with my favorite candle.
And I feel like you made a really good point when you said originally when you guys started dating, you did that for you. You were like, don't do that again. All of these things, you have to build on top of the knowledge that you have for the person. Like this is the biggest part of the 5 love languages is understanding what someone else is, but also how you give that to them. So he's never going to do that again, but he might bring you bundt cakes. That's something you got to learn. I feel like time and investment changes the entire language itself.
Definitely. And the last one, the one that everybody loves to say is their top language is physical touch.
Okay.
But there's different levels to physical
Correct.
touch because, when you're immature, you're like, oh, they want to be touched like this in a certain manner, but you never know. Like, my wife will be laying in bed, and she just starts rubbing my head. I like that. That's a physical touch I like. I didn't think I would, but it works, and that's after we've grown together. We learn what each other likes, talked about it, like, things that have to be built upon.
I feel like one really key note about the physical touch is that it's not always sexual.
Right.
Like it does not have to be sexual in nature. It can be holding hands. It can be like, I know some females like just put your hand on my lower back. Something small like that. It's not always like, let's take our clothes off. Sometimes it's like less than that. Holding hands can be more than just taking your clothes off. So yeah, the physical touch one is sensitive. Everybody likes to be touched in some form or another. I mean, it's human nature. That's what we enjoy. But
Right.
how you're touched by someone
Yeah.
changes the message overall.
Definitely, for sure. I like physical touch. I like cuddling, but I know my limits. So I feel like it becomes a thing when physical touch is like everybody's thing, and it's just like it really isn't. And the pandemic showed a whole lot of people. Okay, no, maybe I can
You
go
can do other
without
things
getting
besides
hugs all
physical
week long.
touch.
Like maybe I can,
Right.
spend some quality time. Maybe I can pull some acts of service. Maybe I can get some gifts. Like. I think the pandemic really put a light on that because everybody be like physical touch, but no, like there are 4 other languages, and just because you're horny does not mean that's everything that's going on.
Yeah.
But what I like is, I don't know if you all went to the actual quiz and took the test and
Yeah,
tells
we
you.
did.
So what I like is how he basically analyzes all these 5 love languages and he puts like a percentage on it.
Mhm.
Because at first I was like, oh yeah, I love it, but I realized that is like the least one for me. Whereas like it's my husband's first. I'm like, I need it, but I don't need it as much as the other person. And so I'm
Right.
learning that it's needed for everyone, but you have to figure out, especially if you're married or if you're in a relationship, at what percentage it is that they actually need it. So yeah.
I suggest everyone go take that test because, like you
Everyone.
said, you thought it was one thing. I found out mine was like words of affirmation. Like,
You didn't know?
I didn't realize I needed to be talked to that much. Like, oh, acts of service? I need you to do stuff for me? I'm not used to that.
Yeah. So I think we can get into the next part. I guess it just talks about what your love language is, kind of what's your number one. Because again, we just talked about there are 5 of them, but which one is your number one and kind of how it developed. So I think I'll just go first since I kind of, yeah.
Okay.
So I guess mine, of course, is quality time. Okay, we already talked about what it is. It actually took my husband to help me understand where it actually developed because I can't see myself. He sees me more than anyone. And I think it just dealt with like my family. I come from a pretty big family, and it's 5 of us. So imagine, you having 5 kids, all of us are different ages. Parents can't provide undivided attention to all of them. And I was a middle girl. I was a 4th out of all the children. My parents are heavily involved in church, doing all kinds. I was left alone. Like, they loved me. We spent time together, but it was like, as a family, there wasn't one-on-one time with me. And so I didn't realize that I needed that until I met my husband. I'm like, can we go do this? Can we do that? And I'm like, why am I needing this so much? It's because I was kind of like the left out. And my mother literally said to me one time, she was like, I left you to yourself. She was like, not because I didn't love you. She was like, you were self-sufficient. You didn't need anything. And I was like, oh my God, no, I needed you. But
Crazy
yeah.
when parents say stuff like that.
Yep.
Because you have, the one thing I like the most about the 5 love languages, it's not just people who you're in a committed relationship with.
Yeah, it's
Like
everybody.
learning your friends, your
Right.
children,
Yeah, it's
especially your children. I think that's a very different dynamic.
Yeah.
How you give them that love is how they're going to interpret it when the rest of the world
Yeah.
gives it to them is also going to change. So
Right.
learning these don't just help in one-on-one relationships. I feel like if you take this test, you learn what each one means. You can learn how to love everybody the right way, for sure.
What's yours?
Oh, I thought you were going. Okay, I would say my love language is physical touch at the top. But even when I took I kind of knew that before I took the test, but I didn't know how to word it or script it or say exactly what it was. But yeah, of all of them, I would say acts of service and gifts are at the bottom, but physical touch is at the top for sure. And it's not like, similarly to you, Leah, you said your parents showered you with one sort of attention, but they left the rest of it somewhat untouched. That's how I felt. Like my mom, my family, I felt loved, but the physical portion, I didn't learn more about that until later on in life. And I just automatically assumed I really like sex, but it had nothing to do with sex and everything to do with like closeness and connection in the physical form. So once I read it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's me. I don't even need redress. I know that this one is mine. So yeah, physical touch it's high for me. It's real high.
Mine's is quality time. I am an only child to a single mother home, so and it's not like one of those good, like we struggle a bit. So at times the only thing we could do was sit in front of the TV and watch TV together. So like it was always there for me, and because of the way I was raised, at one point I did want to say physical touch was mine, but over time I realized because I can go months without seeing somebody and still be connected. Me and my best friend, we hug maybe once, twice a year, and I see her 3-4 times a year. But it's not that big to us, because as long as I'm in contact with her, as long as we spend time together and we talk, we cool. I'm perfectly fine with sitting on the couch and talking for hours, or just sitting up. I do this all the time, and I used to do this before the pandemic. I would go to all of my favorite church members' houses and just sit on their couch and listen to them talk. Because I would just sit there. I'd just be like, yep, I'm here by quarter, and I'm around the people. I'm cool right here. And if they bring me in the conversation, of course I'm going to talk, but I'm perfectly fine with sitting on the couch doing nothing.
Okay, I like that.
For mine, would definitely be words of affirmation. Not to be heavy, but I had a really abusive relationship when I was in college. Led to some stuff, and I guess over the years that kind of traumatized me a little bit. And then I started learning, okay, when people talk nice to me, of course everyone feels better with that. But that really struck me, spending quality time. I'm used to long distance relationships. Not that big of a deal. Acts of service, I'm self-sufficient. I can do what I need. Gifts, physical touch. Again, I don't really need that. I like it, but more than anything, I want to hear that you love me. I want to hear that you find me attractive, that sort of thing. Which is why I love my wife, because hers is quality time, but she's not here, so it's fine. But she's good with responding to my language that I need. And that's something that means a whole lot to me, which is why it works out really well.
So I guess we can get into the next part.
Yeah.
Anyone want to go first?
Do most relationships die because couples are not speaking each other's love languages?
Absolutely.
So can I go on this first?
Please.
So I feel like I don't think it's that they're not speaking the language. I think it's that they never learned it. So I feel they get into a relationship. I'm learning through being in a relationship and through being with people who I care about. there are a lot of things you have to address. Like, you can't just be like a lot of people get into relationships for self-serving purposes. Oh, I like her, I want her to be mine, instead of, oh, what's good for her, or oh, what's good for him. So like, they do this for so long, and then they break up because at the end of the day, like, yes, I wanted her, but like, I got her, and now it's over because I don't know how to placate to her needs as much as I know how to placate to my own. I don't want to come out of my own little level and subserve someone else. And I think that's why a lot of relationships die now, because everybody's like, oh, me. But like, in relationships, there is a very strong point where you have to turn from being like me to we, or what do you like?
Right.
Like, what's your love language? Because if I don't know your love language, of course I'm not gonna serve it, I'm not gonna speak to it.
But it's crazy too, because you'll see on like Twitter, social media period, people are like, oh, they didn't do this and that for me, or I was doing all this and they didn't care.
But did you say something?
Exactly. You think that you know what somebody else wants, but did you actually talk to them, ask them? Did you say, hey, would you actually like this, or would you prefer this? What's that thing where people are like, yo, you want to come over? Nah, if you want to. Like,
no, that's not what you say.
Exactly. You say what you
yes
want and what you
or
need.
no, I don't really need that right now.
And if you don't know what it is that you want or need, how can someone else find that for you? And there becomes that disconnect.
For sure.
Right.
One thing I find really interesting is they can shower you with all of the other ones. Like, people can buy me gifts and do things for me, and I may never look at that as love.
Yep.
Like, this is a language that if I speak Chinese or, you know, whatever, you speak whatever, Mandarin. That was one of the first things that came to my mind, actually. We can both talk here in our language, and neither one of us will ever understand. Until we find that middle ground, or we both learn to speak each other's languages, it won't help. You can give me gifts, you can do things for me, you can say whatever you want, but if you can't hold my hand, I'm not getting none of that. I'm not receiving any of that love, so now I feel completely unloved.
Kendrick, you said something, I think you were talking about, like, communicating. So we talk about these love languages, but for me, I think this is hard for me because I didn't like to tell what I needed or anything. I just assumed he was supposed to know. You're supposed to know.
You're supposed to read my
I
mind, bro.
love that. But it's like, you have to be able to be open and confident and say, look, this is how I want to be loved. And it has to be in the right manner too. I realized that. I learned the lesson from that. And if you start that way, I think that could be a long-lasting relationship. And then maybe you may meet someone who doesn't know how to love you like that, and then you have to let them go. But it's important to tell them, look, this is how I want to be loved. But also, I think that you need to figure that out before you get in a relationship, so you won't mess them up. So that's
also the other part of it. People don't know their own languages. They're
Yeah.
just like, oh yeah, I love getting gifts. No, boo boo. You need him to tell you he's proud of you.
Right.
you need him to look you in the face and be like, you are beautiful and I love you. Like, but you think you need gifts, so he's showering you with every bag you want, every pair of shoes you want, and that's not what you need. Like, it's not filling the part of your life that needs satisfaction. Because you can get gifts, you can buy yourself anything, and I'm very independent, so I tell people all the time, I don't need your money, I don't need you. I will live my life.
Just say you need $20 for gas. No.
Listen, I pray to God, and if it comes from my boyfriend, it comes from my boyfriend. If I find a $20 bill on the street, oh, look at that. I did gas. Look at that.
You want to do another question?
You
Go ahead.
rattle
Go
out.
ahead. Oh, I can't reach it.
I'm gonna shake it up a little bit. Change up the process here. All right. What are actual things to do so that you are speaking our partner, or so that we are speaking our partner's love language when yours is different from theirs?
We kind of talked about those.
Definitely about communication. Like, you gotta be upfront about it. You can't, and honestly, because we've already talked about that, some people don't know others and they also don't know their own. This is something that you guys have to do together. We already suggested that everybody take the test. Like, it's nothing but 2-3 minutes out of your day. Just go on it's free. Just go on, take your test, so you learn something about yourself, because some people don't take the time out to learn about
People
themselves.
will downplay communication to a phone, and
Correct.
it's crazy because there's so many things, like you said, you can't read somebody's mind. Like, you have to know what's going on with someone else. How can you cater to their needs if you don't know what their needs are? And if you don't take that time to also listen, like, communication is listening, like hearing the other person, speaking your concerns without concern of how you're going to make them feel, because you're going to pull back. Like, I know that's something with me and my wife. It's like, we don't argue, but we don't argue because we pull back a whole lot so we don't hurt the other's feelings. And if you don't actually talk as if you have intention with purpose, you're not really saying anything at all. So now we have a couple of fights, and it's great, but we learn how the other person is. We learn the other person's love language and how to speak in general, not just in relationships, but like you said, with your friends, with your family, like people you meet on the street. You have to be like super intimate with them, but learning how to talk to other people is fundamental.
I think we just need to end it right there, though. I know, like you said some things that just like, I don't know.
Really touched.
I guess the only thing I can piggyback off of that, being married, I feel like we think that, okay, take the test, you learn the love language, and then you give them the love, or
That's
give
it.
them the,
That's
that's
not
it.
it.
That's
That's
not
not
it.
it.
Because I've been married for 5 years, and we still have conversations about how I need to love him, or how I need to affirm him, because I'm not, it's a continual thing.
Yes.
And
Because
it
your
takes
love evolves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I was just about to say something along those lines. I feel like as a single male, I don't know the commitment of marriage, but I know with each relationship I enter into, I start thinking like, is this how it is? Is this like which one of these applies to you? I think that a really good step is when you decide you want to be in a committed relationship, read this book. Like go over this together, and every single time you get into a relationship, do it again. I mean, not to say serial date or anything, but if you're thinking about making somebody a serious point in your life, do this. Because understanding how they communicate and how they love and how they're going to love you is a big deal, especially if you want to take it more than just, hey, what's up, come over and watch, come watch this movie. If you really want to dive in, be serious about it. And this is a very serious step.
And it's also about compromise, because if you're not willing to compromise, because there are people who are like, well, this is my love language and this should be her language. No. You cannot dictate anybody else's life. And if you aren't comfortable with, say hers is giving gifts, if you're not comfortable with giving her gifts all the time because that's what she loves, let it go. Like, there's no need to stay in something that you're not willing. If you're not willing to compromise, relationship will never work for you, because you're not the same person. And you're not going to date someone who is exactly like you, and you're also not going to be perfect all the time. So you have to be able to compromise and be like, okay, well, this is yours, this is mine. So say mine's is physical touch and my boyfriend's is quality time. Cool. We cuddle and we watch a movie. That serves everybody at the same time. Like, he's getting what he wants, I'm getting what I want. When the movie's over, we sit down, we have a conversation about it. And if my second is gifts, let's go out to dinner or something. Like, the whole day.
Well, I can say one thing that kind of was difficult for me was I know what my love language was, quality time, right? And I wasn't too sure. I knew what my husband's was. I knew it was words of affirmation, but I was so used to love him the way I wanted to be loved. So I was like, oh, let's plan a date night. I'm like, why is he not jumping for joy? What is wrong? Oh my gosh, I'm not loving you the right way. But it takes time. And also, I just think that with the 5 love languages, I got the book and I read it like face value. Like I know what they were, but I didn't understand truly what it meant to actually do it. And we talked about examples and stuff like that, going out on a date, but I didn't really understand it or take it to heart until I was married. I don't know, I guess it just deals with like where you are in your life, kind of. I don't know.
Well, it flips so much, like you being single or with somebody, like at any point in time, not to be rude, but like y'all can split off, and that's it. There's nothing. We're married. Not to like we don't get that option of I'm just going to step away from this. You have to learn to talk with somebody else. You have to learn to be around them because they've been together 5 years. I've been with mine for 5 months. We've all changed so much in that time. Your language will evolve. Your language will change, and you will have to continuously learn and put that effort in. And that quality time you're going to spend together is part of that love language.
Being married is definitely a vulnerability that no one wants to talk about, because when you gotta wake up and smell that breath, you gotta
In a
know.
pandemic,
You
like,
gotta know.
you ain't leaving nowhere.
You gotta know you love them, because honestly, I don't know what I would do. I just feel like right now I'm not in that place, so that's cool. But like when I get there and I'm waking up and I'm like, whoa, like
You don't even
this
notice
is
it.
this is a lot.
One really key point that was made in the book was about the love tank, and that's like it's like a gas tank. Like if a gas tank is completely empty, you're not going nowhere. And even after you put a little bit of gas in, there's still so much more to go. So if you go a long period without receiving love, you're going to be on E. And you're going to need somebody to invest energy and time like you did with John. You had to build up on that tank. They say every week you should do something to add to that, so that person never feels empty. You keep adding to it, and if they start going down, you have to add more because they're under. So you got to sometimes learn people so you can bring them up so that they don't always feel empty. I thought that was a really good plan.
That's good. Good point. Yeah.
Okay, we all got it on the table. You good?
Yeah. That's a good conversation.
All right, this was a great conversation. So that wraps up today's topic. Tune in next time to catch up with what's next on Connecting Conversations.
Bye.
Good deal. Keep tuning in, guys.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Get with the Connection community. We love you. You should love us. Peace.
Ew.